Somewhere along the banks of the Nile, more than 3,000 years ago, two women made a choice that would defy an empire. They had no army, no weapons, no political power, just their hands, their courage, and their refusal to obey a king. This is the story of Shiphrah and Puah, two midwives whose quiet defiance changed the course of history. Centuries earlier, a man named Joseph had saved Egypt from famine, and his family, the Israelites, had settled there as honored guests. But generations passed. The Pharaoh who remembered Joseph was long dead, and the Israelites had multiplied. The land was filled with them. To the new king of Egypt, this wasn't a blessing, it was a threat. He looked at the Israelites and saw not neighbors, but a rising nation within his own borders. So he did what frightened rulers have done throughout history. He turned people into a problem to be managed. First, he enslaved them. He forced the Israelites into brutal labor, building his cities, his monuments, his storehouses. But even under the whip, the population kept growing. The harder Pharaoh pushed them down, the more they seemed to rise, and that terrified him even more. So Pharaoh turned to a darker plan. He summoned two Hebrew midwives, women whose entire life's work was to bring babies safely into the world. Their names were Shiphrah and Puah. Pharaoh gave them a chilling command. When they helped Hebrew women give birth, they were to watch the birthing stool. If the baby was a girl, let her live. But if the baby was a boy, kill him. Think about what he was asking. Not soldiers, not executioners. Midwives trained to protect life at its most fragile moment were being ordered to end it. He assumed fear of a king would be stronger than their conscience. He was wrong. Shiphrah and Puah went back to their work, delivering babies, boys and girls alike, with the same skill and tenderness as always. They didn't organize a rebellion. They didn't publicly denounce the king. They simply refused, quietly and consistently, to do what was evil, even under the most powerful throne in the world. The text tells us plainly, they feared God more than they feared Pharaoh. In a kingdom built on the absolute authority of a god-king, two ordinary women decided there was a higher law than his. Eventually, Pharaoh noticed. The Hebrew population wasn't shrinking, it was still growing. He called Shiphrah and Puah before him again, demanding to know why his orders had gone unheeded. Their answer was clever, and it was bold. They told him Hebrew women were simply too vigorous, that they gave birth so quickly, the midwives often arrived too late. Whether Pharaoh believed them or not, he had no way to prove otherwise. And the babies kept being born and kept being spared. It's easy, looking back, to read this as a simple victory. But we shouldn't miss what these two women risked. Defying a pharaoh wasn't a small act of civil disobedience. Kings held the power of life and death over anyone who displeased them, and the midwives had lied to his face twice. They had no guarantee of safety, no promise that their defiance would work. They simply chose, birth after birth, to do the right thing even when no one but God was watching. Courage, in this story, doesn't look like a battlefield. It looks like two women showing up to work, day after day, refusing to let fear make them cruel. The ancient record tells us that because they feared God, they were blessed with families of their own. Their names were remembered and written down for every generation after. In a story about a king who tried to erase a whole people, it's the midwives whose names survive, not Pharaoh's. Their defiance set the stage for what came next. For a baby who would be born not long after, hidden in a basket among the reeds of the Nile, who would grow up to lead his people out of slavery entirely. None of that would have been possible without two women who decided they would not become instruments of a king's cruelty. Shiphrah and Puah never led an army. They never gave a great speech. They simply told the truth about what they valued and lived it out one birth at a time. Sometimes history isn't changed by the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it's changed by the ones who quietly refuse to do what's wrong and keep showing up to do what's right. If this story moved you, subscribe for more stories of courage from history. And let me know in the comments, what would you have done in their place?